সাউন্ডটা মাঝখানে কি হলো রে? বুঝতে পারলাম না। সাউন্ডটা বেশ কি একটা হয়ে গেল মাঝখানে, মানে টোনগুলো হঠাৎ করে মানে টোন আউট হয়ে গেল।
একটু জল দাও বলছে। মায়াপুর টিভি দেখছে না।
বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর হে দাস করুণা করি।
হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর ইদাস করুণা করি।
তুমি দিয়া পদসয়া সদা হে আমার,
তুমি দিয়া পদ ছায়া সদা হে আমারে।
ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর আমার, তুমি দিয়া পদ সদা হে আমার, আমি তোমার চরণ ধরি। ও হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর হে দাস করুণা করি।
বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর দাস করুণা করি।
ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর হে দাস করুণা করি।
বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর দাস করুণা করি।
তুমি দিয়া পদ সদা হে আমার,
দিয়া পদ ছায়া শোধো হে আমারে।
পদ ছায়া সদা হে আমাদের।
তুমি দিয়া পদ ছায়া শোধো হে আমারে।
তোমার চরণ ধরি, তোমার চরণ ধরি।
তুমি দিয়া পদ ছায়া শোধো হে আমারে। তোমার চরণ ধরি, তোমার চরণ ধরি।
তুমি দিয়া পদ সদা হে আমার, দিয়া পদ
ছায়া
সদা হে ছাড়া করো না
চরণ ছাড়া করো না হে
জন্মে নয় জন্মে জন্মে আমার চরণ ছাড়া করো না
আমায় জন্মে নয় জন্মে জন্মে চরণ ছাড়া করো না হে
তোমার চরণ ধরি তোমার চরণ ধরি ওরে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করি
হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করি
সয়দশারি সয়গুণ দেহদাস
ছয় বেগদমি ছয় দোষ শোধি ছয় গুণ দেহদাসে
সত সঙ্গ দেহ হে আমার
ছয় শত চঙ্গ দেহ হে আমারে
সত সঙ্গ দেহ হে আমার
ছয় শত চঙ্গ দেহ হে আমারে
বসে সঙ্গের আসে
ছয় শত সঙ্গ দেহ হে আমারে সঙ্গের আসে বসেছি সঙ্গের আসে
বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করি
হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করি
একাকী আমায় নাহি পায় বলে হরি নাম সংকীর্তনে
একাকী আমার নাহি পায় বল হরি নাম সংকীর্তনে
তুমি কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধা বিন্দু দিয়া
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 তুমি কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধা বিন্দু দিয়া তুমি
কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধা বিন্দু দিয়া
তুমি কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধা বিন্দু দিয়া
তুমি কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধা বিন্দু দিয়া
দেহ দাসে করুণা করি।
হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করি।
কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার কৃষ্ণ দিতে পারো, তোমার শক্তি আসে।
কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার কৃষ্ণ দিতে পার, তোমার শক্তি আছে।
কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার কৃষ্ণ দিতে পারো, তোমার শক্তি আসে।
কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার কৃষ্ণ দিতে পার, তোমার শক্তি আছে।
আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি,
আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি।
আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি।
আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি।
আমি তো কাঙাল ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর আমার, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি।
আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি।
আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি। আমি
তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি।
ধাই তব পাশে পাশে, ধাই তব পাশে পাশে।
আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি, ধাই তব পাছে পাছে, ধাই তব পাছে পাছে।
হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করি।
হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করি।
তুমি দিয়া পদ ছায়া সদহে আমায়, দিয়া পদ
ছায়া সদহে আমারে,
পদ ছায়া সদহে আমায়,
পদ ছায়া সদহে আমারে।
তোমার চরণ ধরি, তোমার চরণ ধরি।
তুমি দিয়া পদ ছায়া সদহে আমারে, তোমার চরণ ধরি, তোমার চরণ ধরি।
ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করি।
হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করি।
জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর।
বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর। বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর
নিতাই গৌর হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল গৌর হরি
নিতাই গৌর
বল
হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল
নিতাই গৌর হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল গৌর হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল
হরি বল হরি বল
নিজ কর্ম দোষ ফলে পরিভবার নব জলে খাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল খাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল খাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল নিজ কর্ম দোষ ফলে পরিভবার নব জলে হাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল হাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল
নিজ কর্ম দোষ ফলে পড়ি ভাবার নব জলে হাবু ডুবু
খাই কত কাল হাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল হরি হে নিজ কর্ম দোষ ফলে পরিভবার নব জলে নিজ কর্ম দোষ ফলে
পরিভবার নব
জলে হাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল হাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল সাঁতারি সাঁতারি যায় সিন্ধু অন্ত নাহি পায় ভব সিন্ধু অনন্ত বিশাল ভব সিন্ধু অনন্ত বিশাল হরি হে নিজ কর্ম দোষ ফলে পরিভবার নব জলে হাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল ডুবু খাই কত কাল। মগন হইন যাবে দাক্ষিণ কাতারে রবে, কেহ মরে কারহ উদ্ধার। নিমগ্ন হইন যাবে দাক্ষিণ কাতারে রবে, জানি কুলভূমি। সেই কালে আইলে তুমি তোমা জানি কুলভূমি। সেই
কালে আইলে তুমি,
সেই কালে আইলে তুমি তোমা জানি কুলভূমি। আশা বীজ হইল আমার, আশা বীজ হইল আমার, আশা বীজ হইল আমার। হরি হে নিজ কর্ম দোষ ফলে পড়ি ভবার নব জলে। নিজ কর্ম দোষ ফলে পড়ি ভবার নব জলে। কাশ্মীর হাবু ডুবু হাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল। দয়াময় পাইলে মোরে শুনিছ, দরি তুমি হরি দয়াময় পাইলে মোরে শুনিছ। সর্বতম পাইলে মোরে শুনিছ। সর্বতম দয়ার বিষয় তোমাকে না ছাড়িয়ার এ ভগতি বিনোদ সার। তোমাকে না ছাড়িয়ার এ ভগতি বিনোদ সার। দয়া পাত্র পাইলে দয়াময়, দয়া পাত্র পাইলে দয়াময়, দয়া পাত্র পাইলে দয়াময়। হরি হে নিজ কর্ম দোষ ফলে হরি ভবার নব জলে। নিজ কর্ম দোষ ফলে পড়ি ভবার নব জলে। হাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল, হাবু ডুবু খাই কত কাল। হাবু ডুবু হাবু ডুবু ভাবডুবো খাই কত
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Wonderful, melodious Kirtan and Bhajan. So, here we are in the second half of the third day Sravana Utsav. Welcome all of you, and from all over the world, online also. So we are fortunate to have with us now in the evening His Grace Hari Sauri Prabhu. So Hari Sauri Prabhu, I need not give any special introduction. He is Prabhupada disciple, and he is a Mayapur Vasi. So we welcome Prabhuji, please. We welcome Prabhu by chanting Haridwani and Huludwani. Huludwani और Haridwani दिए हमरा प्रभु के स्वागत जानाबो. One more pillow? Okay. আরেকটা লাগবে বলছে আছে এটা আগে রাখে পিছনে one after other like this. Okay.
हरि जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन यमुना तेरा वनचारी यमुना तेरा वनचारी यमुना तेरा जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jayo Radha Madhav. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande.
Ad ki jai. Shri Mayapur Shravan Yatra ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. Okay.
Hare Krishna. So last time also Prabhu was speaking about this Prabhupada's pastimes. This time specifically Prabhu says, Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur. Prabhu will be speaking today and tomorrow also. Be prepared.
Okay. All right. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. So I was asked to speak a little something about Mayapur, which I'll try and do. I have no real qualification for describing the glories of the Dham, except that somehow or another I've been able to live here for about 27 years. So I'll give a little introduction to Mayapur, and then I have a seminar which I present when I'm traveling, which we'll look at later on. So, because we always, in ISKCON, we think about Mayapur having its beginnings with Srila Prabhupada getting the land here, and then the expansion that's taken place from recent times. And I'm going to go back a little bit in time to a couple of letters here from Srila Prabhupada, dated in 1955. So that's quite a while ago. But at that time, 1955, Srila Prabhupada was the editor of a newspaper that one of his godbrothers was publishing, called the Illustrated Weekly. And Prabhupada had been asked by his godbrother Goswami Maharaj to take up the running and management of this Illustrated Weekly, and just to give an idea of the contrast between what ISKCON is now and where Srila Prabhupada was in 1955, then Prabhupada was writing to his godbrother, and he mentions how happy he is that he's purchased a typewriter. I don't even think most modern youth or grown-ups even know what a typewriter actually is, because everything's done online. But in Prabhupada's time, even to have a typewriter was kind of considered to be a bit of an opulence. And Prabhupada wrote to this godbrother thanking him for getting a typewriter, because that would make the publication department go much more quickly. So he says, Prabhupada's writing about his godbrother, Srila B.R. Sridhar Swami. So he says that Sridhar Maharaj has advised you to purchase some land at Mayapur. Yes, we must have a temple in Mayapur. If every one of us possesses a temple there, the importance of Sridhar Mayapur will automatically be increased, and we must have this ideal in view always. So that was, Prabhupada was looking at the situation, and he's advising that we should, each and every godbrother should have a mutt in Mayapur. That will increase the importance of the Dham and attract people to come. So he says, Sajan Toshani Patrika is absolutely necessary. This typewriter is to be returned today because of the period of 1 month expires today, and as you are bringing very soon the purchased one, I shall return it today without further rental expenses. So they were so poor that they were just renting a typewriter, and even then Prabhupada was keen to get the typewriter given back to the rentor, and in that way he won't waste any more money in rental. So he says, I wish to see this paper just to the standard of illustrated weekly, with numerous pictures, in order to make it a very popular literature. So do they even have the illustrated weekly anymore? Anybody know anything about that? Anyway, the Illustrated Weekly was one of the big magazines of its day, and very popular. So Prabhupada's saying here that that's my plan, is to make the Gaudiya magazine that he's working on, he wants to expand it to be as big or bigger than the Illustrated Weekly. So that was 1955. 10 years later, Prabhupada is, let's see, in India. He'd gone to the West in 65. He had started up his temple in 26 Second Avenue, and for whatever reason, in early 1967, then that was a very critical year for Prabhupada. He had 2 heart attacks coming over from India on the boat in 1965, late. He had worked very hard in getting the new temple in New York and another temple in San Francisco established. And then at the end of May in 1967, he had another 3rd heart attack, which Prabhupada described it that he was meant to have 3 heart attacks on the boat coming over, and if that had occurred, he said, I don't think that I would have made it. But somehow or another on the 3rd night, then there was no heart attack, but Prabhupada had a dream, or a vision if you like, where Krishna had taken charge of the boat and he was rowing it with its many arms. So in that way he said, after he had that dream, he understood that Krishna had directly taken charge of the boat, And now in 67, he'd been there about a year, and then he had this third heart attack. So Prabhupada was very sick. He decided to go back to India to recuperate his health. And this letter is written to Satsvarup Goswami. Well, actually it was a household at that time. To Satsvarup in October of 1967, where Prabhupada tells him, I'm going to Calcutta with Achyutananda and Ramanuja to visit Lord Chaitanya's birth site at Mayapur. So Prabhupada wasn't just getting treatment for his illness when he came back in 1967, but he was actually still actively thinking about the preaching, and especially he was thinking about doing something in Mayapur. So that Prabhupada's ambition to spread Krishna consciousness was now beginning to fructify. There was in the 1930s, Prabhupada was in Allahabad, and he had one good friend there, Dr. O.B.L. Kapoor. Dr. Kapoor was about 6 or 7 years younger than Prabhupada, but they were both there in Allahabad. They helped to establish the Gaudiya Math in Allahabad, and then of course Prabhupada got initiated in 33 by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in Allahabad. So I interviewed Dr. Kapoor sometime after Prabhupada's disappearance, and so he told me about a conversation that he had with Srila Prabhupada, where Dr. Kapoor had got a kind of a cold or fever, something like that. He was a little bit sick, and so Prabhupada had seen him at that time. Of course, he was Abhaicha and Babu, and he said, "So you got some illness? I'll give you one tonic just to help clear that illness." So Dr. Kapoor said, "Oh, that's very nice. I accept your offer, but I want some of the tonic that you were taking," because Prabhupada was a pharmacist. So Prabhupada laughed. He says, "What is that?" And so Dr. Kapoor said, "The tonic that gives you love of Godhead." So Prabhupada laughed. He said, "I don't have that tonic, but I have the formula. Trinada Pisunichana Taroravi Saishnuna Amanimandidana Caitanya Siddhahari." He said, "So I have that formula, and I shall preach it all around the world." So this is in the early 1930s. And Dr. Kapoor said that at the time when he made that remark, I didn't think much of it. But he said, now looking back, I can understand that even then he was thinking how to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So the idea of having a place in Mayapur didn't just begin in the 1960s with ISKCON's establishment here in India, but it was something that Prabhupada had meditated on for many, many years, because he understood the absolute importance of having some kind of institution here in Mayapur where what he could establish an American institute or American home. So that was his plan. He didn't get much cooperation, unfortunately, but that didn't stop him. And just on the point of having this American home for his disciples. So in 1969, Prabhupada wrote to Brahmananda in Los Angeles. He said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur desired that Americans' disciples would come to Mayapur to take advantage of the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I wanted to make one American home there. And I asked for a piece of land there from one of my godbrothers, Tirtha Maharaj. So he has simply acknowledged my receipt of my letter, but there has been no reply as yet. In the meantime, Achyutananda has given hope of purchasing land there. If we purchase some land, it may be that some American people will construct a nice temple there and a home for the American visitors. So what is your idea if we purchase some land there? But if we do something, it must be done very nicely. Otherwise, it will be an insult to your people who are so rich. People may go there to see the American home and the American devotees. That is my idea. I shall be glad to know what your opinion about this is. So that's 1969, Prabhupada's. At that point, he still had not established ISKCON as a legal entity or a venue for people to come to. Now, Prabhupada actually came to India to begin ISKCON's activities here in August of 1970. So this letter is 2 years before that. And again, a couple of months after that letter to Brahmananda, Prabhupada wrote to Gopal Krishna, regarding the Mayapur center, this is almost settled up that we shall have a temple there. Very soon we shall purchase a piece of land there so that when you return to India, it will be in your charge for constructing a temple on a grand scale there. At that time, Gopal Krishna had just newly joined ISKCON, and I think he was working at the time for Coca-Cola Company as an executive. After he met Prabhupada, he gave that up, and Prabhupada actually made him a GBC, even though at the time he didn't have a clear idea of what he would do. Gopal complied, and Prabhupada told him one of his first tasks was to establish something here in Mayapur. So this idea of having a place in Mayapur was always deep in Srila Prabhupada's heart. It was something that he was constantly thinking about, because of course this is the heart of the Krishna consciousness movement, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So again, a couple of months after that, Prabhupada wrote to Madhava Maharaj. So this is January 1970. was just before the formation of the GBC in ISKCON. And Prabhupada he wrote this letter to Madhva Maharaj, that was his godbrother. Madhva Maharaj had allowed some of Prabhupada's disciples to stay at his mutt there in Calcutta. So Prabhupada was describing his preaching in America, and he says, the newspaper reporters advertise about these boys and girls as being bright-faced. And actually it is so. By nature, these American boys and girls are fair complexioned or white. They are beautiful also, and when they take to Krishna consciousness with symbols of mala and tilak, they appear to be coming directly from the Vaikuntha planets. Regarding Mayapur, practically my jurisdiction of preaching is covered mostly in these Western countries. And because Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted it at that the American and European devotees should come to Mayapur, therefore I am trying for it. So it's interesting, Prabhupada says there that he was given a jurisdiction, that means from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to preach in the West, but nothing was going on in Mayapur. So he took it that this was an extra part of his activity, that he should try and get something in Mayapur. Therefore I am trying for it. If you kindly help in this connection, it will be a great assistance. I've already written to Achyutananda in this connection, and whichever plot of land that you altogether select, I will accept it. So that was, Achyutananda, of course, was the first disciple of Srila Prabhupada to come and live in India. When the Vietnam War was going on, then the American government was conscripting all the young men and sending them off to war. So naturally, of course, that was not very well received. Prabhupada was able to save some of them from the draft board, and Achyutananda was one of them. He left America and he came here to India. There was another devotee called Ramanuja. So the two of them together were based mainly in either Madhava Maharaj's mutt or in Srila Maharaj's mutt. So Prabhupada had been encouraging them, you find some land in Mayapur and let's do something there. Big or small, it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's a little background. In 1971, some land was actually purchased. Tamal Krishna Goswami was given power of attorney by Srila Prabhupada in, I think, May of 1971. He was successful in purchasing the first piece of land where the Bhajan Kutir is now. Immediately they got that land, Prabhupada had this mud hut constructed, and that was, then they put a sign out that this is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness headquarters. There's that little mud hut there. So Okay, so Achyutananda was there, and when Prabhupada came in August of 1970, he landed with 4 sannyasis in Calcutta, and the first thing that he wanted to do was to get some land in Mayapur, and so 71, that was when they actually obtained it. The owner of the land was a man called Jabad Ali Sheikh. So Jabad Ali Sheikh sold this piece of land where our front gate is, and Jananivas Prabhu Ki Jai. Okay, now that's as I say, a bit of a background. Just okay, so the main part of Prabhupada's mission, of course, was to introduce the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, Chaito Darpa Namajanam. The heart has to become cleansed in order to understand what Krishna consciousness is. Prabhupada saw a facility in Mayapur would be an ideal place to bring people together and engage them in the Sankirtan movement. And then from there, with purified hearts, they could go out and preach all over the world. So, in December of 1976, Prabhupada was in Bombay. A week and a half prior to that, he had been to a place called Radha, which is right in central India, just near Nagpur. And there was a meeting there, Gita Pratishna. So the Gita Pratishna had been established by some followers of Gandhi, M.K. Gandhi, and they were feeling that the youth of India were being misled, especially the communist movement was coming up. People were becoming more atheistic, and they wanted to do something to counter that. So when they had this meeting, their idea was that by somehow or another promoting the Bhagavad Gita, especially amongst the young people, that will be at least one positive step towards correcting this imbalance. Unfortunately, of course, none of the participants at this Gita Pratishna, there's about 24, 25 of them, people from different spiritual organizations. So most of them were 100% Mayavadi. So when Prabhupada went to this meeting, as he had done many times before, the mood, the preaching was always impersonal. And so Prabhupada, you'll find right from the early days, was always preaching against this idea that God is formless. He once said that this is India's glory, but it's also a problem. 99% of them are all Mayavadis. So in this note here, Prabhupada was having a darshan, and he told us, this is a room conversation from 1976 in Bombay. Prabhupada told us, he said, now this movement is started because on this principle, that why these rascals are not speaking in parampara. This is the seed of my starting this movement. I must start the movement. It is the impetus of this movement that they must speak according to the parampara. and someone has allowed them to speak otherwise. Therefore I wrote this book, Bhagavad Gita, as it is. Don't make interpretations. And by the grace of Krishna, it has come to some extent successful. So that is the impetus. Why should they talk all nonsense? So Prabhupada was very bold in his preaching, and that's the seed of this movement, chanting Hare Krishna purely as it's meant to be presented. So on his walk, the same walk, some gentleman was there, like a life member. He had made some suggestions, oh, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? So Prabhupada stopped, he said, you'll advise, but you'll never do it. That is going on. This is your Indian policy, that these white elephants, that means the Western devotees, they'll come and dance and you will simply watch. And you were busy with your daughter's wedding. So everybody knows in India, if you've got girls, you have to spend so much time and effort and money to get them a good husband. It becomes a national preoccupation. And Prabhupada himself got caught up in that to some extent. So as he says, you were busy with your daughter's marriage, that's all. So Krishna consciousness means Vairagya Vidya. Vairagya Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yogam. Nobody can become a Bhakta unless he is disgusted with material life. Oh, I shall do this, I shall do that. But he'll never do Bhakti Yoga. So that's not possible for them. Before leaving my family life, I wanted to get my sons and daughters married. But some of them disagreed. My wife, she disagreed. All right, this is Prabhupada with his thinking. He said, let them go to hell. I don't care. My time is up. So Prabhupada made some effort to get his daughters married. The first one he got married, Sri Lakshmana. And then after that he had two boys, Prayagraj, who became crazy and apparently died in the streets in Calcutta. And then there was M.M. Day, who was very intelligent, but in some respects always annoyed with his father that he had left them to take sannyas, and they had to make their own way. So one of the youngest daughter, she Prabhupada tried to get some arrangement made for her to get married, but that was spoiled by Prabhupada's wife or ex-wife, because as Prabhupada said, her idea was that this youngest girl should not get married, and then she can stay with me as my maidservant. And that's actually the way that it went. Bhaktilata Day, she never got married, and because she left her body some years back. I met her once or twice, but that was their idea. So anyway, Prabhupada knew that his time was coming. He had to get something started. It's now or never. So as he says, I thought let them go to hell, I don't care. Now the time is up. Married or not married, you see your own business. So then he asked this gentleman on the morning walk, he said, well, suppose you die immediately, then who will take care of your daughter? So then the guest, he said, well, God will have to look after them. So Prabhupada immediately said, so then why don't you do that now? Why wait? God will take care. So my Guru Maharaj, he used to say, or he called it civil suicide. So Prabhupada is very practical. So that was the seed of Prabhupada's movement. Bhagavad Gita as it is. He wanted to preach it as far and as wide as possible. And he had to make some arrangements that were not very happily received by his family members. But the priority was, of course, his preaching. So it's Prabhupada. Sorry about this. So, in the end result, of course, Prabhupada was successful beyond any, beyond any expectation. And there's an interesting conversation between Prabhupada and Bhakti Charu Swami. You've seen that book of Bhakti Charu Maharaj's Ocean of Mercy. So there's a conversation there. Bhakti Charu Maharaj writes how Ban Maharaj, who had been Prabhupada's godbrother, he had gone to the West in the 1930s, but after a couple of years he was recalled. He was not very successful in what he was doing. Whereas when Prabhupada came 20 years later, 36 to 30 years later, to 66, then he brought ISKCON to India, so it became a sensation. And some people liked what Prabhupada was doing, other people didn't. There were a few of his godbrothers that were not fully supportive as they should have been. But Prabhupada was in Vrindavan. This is July 1977, so just before he went to London for the last time. So in July, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he was keeping some notes, and Ban Maharaj came to visit along with Akinchana Krishna Das Babaji. So Akinchana Krishna Das Babaji was a good friend of Prabhupada's. I understood that the day after Prabhupada took sannyas, then he took Akinchana Krishna Das with him to go preaching to Agra. So Babaji Maharaj was I think the only disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's who was officially given Babaji, and all he would do was just chant. There's a backstory to that, but I won't say that tonight. But he had come to see Prabhupada then in 77, and Bon Maharaj had come with him. So Bon Maharaj was kind of a bit controversial figure, but Bhakti Maharaj, he relates a story about their meeting with Prabhupada. He says that it graphically illustrates the underlying cause of Srila Prabhupada's success as a preacher. Sometime in early July 1977, in Vrindavan, two of Prabhupada's godbrothers came to see him. One was a Krishnananda Dasa Babaji, and the other was His Holiness Bon Maharaj. So Bon Maharaj was well known in the Gaudiya Mat and was one of the devotees who was sent to England in 1933 in the first attempt by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to preach Krishna consciousness in the West. So Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji let's see. Yeah. So Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji and Bon Maharaj came to see Srila Prabhupada. So when they came in, Prabhupada's face lit up with a bright smile. I arranged two chairs near his bed for them to speak together. Babaji Maharaj glorified Srila Prabhupada for his achievements around the world, and Bon Maharaj agreed, saying that Srila Prabhupada had been blessed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then, in his usual cheerful manner, Babaji Maharaj said to Bon Maharaj, "So you're a great preacher. He is also a great preacher. You are a great scholar. He is also a great scholar. You have very good command over the English language. He also has a wonderful command over the English language. You went to the West. He also went to the West. Then how come he has been so successful, but you were not?" So he's very upfront about it. It was there's no criticism or fault finding in it. Just simply, it's like a child. They ask questions as they come out. So Babaji Maharaj asks, "So given all these criterias, you're equal in so many ways. How come he's been successful and you are not?" So Bon Maharaj smiled but didn't say anything, and Prabhupada looked a little embarrassed and he remained silent. So Babaji Maharaj answered his own question. He said, because he was successful because of his unflinching faith in the holy names. So that was his observation. He was well qualified to understand the character of a person, and he knew that Prabhupada's secret to success was his full surrender to the holy name. And because if we read Prabhupada's poems that he wrote when he first arrived in America, he says there, "Somehow or another, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message, so if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance. O Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy names of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhaktivedanta, and now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhaktivedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar. On board the ship Jaladuta, Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts. So that was his appreciation. Prabhupada's complete dependence on the holy name was what made him a success. Again, there was another exchange between Prabhupada and Bon Maharaj. This was in 1975. Prabhupada had written to Bon Maharaj. You'd heard that he was touring some Western universities. Bon Maharaj had gone on in the 1940s and the 1950s, still visiting occasionally the Western countries, and he was making up some friendships with different scholars there. So in 75 he was in America, and it just happened that Prabhupada was also in America. And so Prabhupada wrote to him and invited him, why don't you come with me? We can stay in Hawaii, we can stay in Berkeley, we can visit so many places. We're having Rath Yatra in Philadelphia, you can come with me there. And then that way you'll get to see the activities that we're doing. So Prabhupada's writing here to, I got a reply from Bon Maharaj, and Prabhupada says, I thank you very much for your appreciation that I have done a wonderful job in this country. Srila Maharaj also appreciated my service. He said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prediction, Prativite Chajito Nagaradi Gram Savatra Pachahoibe Moranam, would remain a dream only, but he congratulated me that I had done it practically. So that was in 75. In 76, Prabhupada came here to Mayapur to get ready for the festival. We arrived on January the 17th, and Prabhupada had invited Srila Maharaj, they were old friends, to come and visit with him for the afternoon here in Mayapur. Because at that time we only had the Lotus building and the big kitchen. So on March the 15th then in 1976, Prabhupada's godbrother, B.R. Sridhar Swami, came in Prabhupada's car from his mutt in Navadvip. He stayed for most of the afternoon. He and Prabhupada took prasadam together on the veranda. Prabhupada had him stay in the room right next to his own, and after a light rest, they talked for most of the afternoon. During their conversations, they exchanged reports on each other's preaching activities. Prabhupada told me afterwards that Sridhar Maharaj had said that he regarded him as the real Acharya. Sridhar Maharaj told him that Lord Chaitanya had given his prediction that the chanting of the holy names would go to every town and village, but he and his godbrothers had not taken this statement literally. So now by Prabhupada's efforts, Sridhar Maharaj said, he couldn't understand the real meaning of that verse. So that was at least some godbrothers appreciated Prabhupada, if not all of them. And that was their idea, that somehow or another, I think because of the failure of the expedition in 1933 to 1936, they developed this mentality, that this idea of, Prithivijaya Jayajito Nagaradi Gram, that it was just some kind of poetic expression, that the holy names, they were thinking, oh well, maybe all the towns and villages of India, but they couldn't see how it could be done in the West. They'd already had one try at that, and it was a failure. So now in 76, Srila Maharaj told Prabhupada that from your activities, you made this a reality, so you are the real Acharya. So that was quite significant coming from Srila Maharaj, because of the unfortunate breakup of the Gaudiya Math after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had left the planet. Then this idea of there being a single Acharya was promoted by Srila Maharaj and several others, and it was a failure. So for him to now say that from your activities we can understand that you're the real Acharya was quite significant. So Prabhupada's going to America then. Again, this idea that there'd been some prediction of Krishna consciousness going all around the world. So on August the 12th, 1965, that was the day before Prabhupada set sail for America. So the day before, Prabhupada came here to Mayapur. Took advantage of his trip there to get a little publicity for his journey. So it's very interesting what he says. This was published in the Dainik Basumati, which was a Bengali language newspaper in Calcutta. And the message, the news article began, "The Lord's message goes to America." And then in the text, which you'll see is obviously written by Srila Prabhupada, he says, "Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Prithvi Chaya Chaitanya Nagaradi Gram Savarcha Prachahoi Bhai Morana." So that prophecy is going to be fulfilled now. Prabhupada's very sure about what he was doing. That prophecy is going to be fulfilled now. Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami, a resident of Vrindavan. So this article's been published in Calcutta, but Prabhupada's not identifying himself as being a Calcuttite. What's the word proper? Anyway, he's not identifying himself as being from Calcutta. He says that he's a resident of Vrindavan. So he has translated the Srimad Bhagavatam into English in 60 volumes with a word-for-word meaning and purports. Before this great work could be appreciated by his countrymen, people from far-off America have expressed their admiration of this supernormal achievement and have invited him so that they may meet with him in person and acquaint themselves with his work. Hence he is departing from Calcutta for New York this 12th day of August 1965. So it's very interesting what Prabhupada says there, that before, first of all, he says that he's translated 60 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but of course he only had 3 volumes of the first canto. And then also he says that before this work could be appreciated by its countrymen, Indians, it's been received in America. And so on that invite from these persons in America, he's going by ship on the Jaladuta. So that it kind of was a puzzle for a long time who Prabhupada was referring to, that they'd invited him, the American people had invited him to come and give the message of the Bhagavatam in America. So later on, doing a little bit of research, we found that Prabhupada had been selling his books in Delhi and other places, Kashmir. There's many places he went and visited, and he was selling his translation of the first canto. Let's see. One of the purchasers was the American Embassy in Delhi, and they had some policy that they would acquire literatures and send them back to America, and that literature would be distributed to various people connected with them. So Prabhupada had sold, I think, 18 sets of his first canto to the American Embassy, or some entity that's an offshoot from them. And they had immediately sent Prabhupada's Bhagavatam to the West. So the Bhagavatam actually arrived in America before Srila Prabhupada. And also, because we know that Lord Jagannath, the same thing happened in San Francisco, that Lord Jagannath was sitting waiting for the devotees to find him. So Prabhupada's determination to preach and to establish the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world, it was a long-standing desire. And when the time was right, then Krishna made the arrangements for him to fulfill this mission. So what time is it? 6:45. What time do we go? What time do we finish? 7. All right. I'm going to stop here on this. And if anybody has any questions or comments, you can feel free.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, my query is that, like you told that someone told about Bon Maharaj went also before Srila Prabhupada to preach Europe, and Srila Prabhupada was successful, but they are not because of unflinching faith on a holy name.
Yeah.
So do you please elaborate a little bit what does it mean? My first query, and second query is that
what was that? First query?
This is my first query, so you can.
What is the query?
So what does it mean that unflinching faith on a holy name? So do you please elaborate a little bit?
You don't know what unflinching means? Okay, the question is, what does it mean to have unflinching faith in the holy names? It means you have to be totally sold out and surrendered 24 hours a day. Prabhupada wrote in his poem there, make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. So you can only be a conduit for Krishna consciousness if you have complete and absolute faith in the holy names. You can't be a preacher unless you have that conviction. If you have some other interest along with that, then you'll not be successful. And since we're talking about Bon Maharaj, his preaching was not successful because he was not fully surrendered to his spiritual master. I know that sounds a bit controversial, but actually what we found out was that Bon Maharaj, after a year in England, he had written one small booklet, My First Year in England. And then again the next year he wrote another similar booklet, My Second Visit to Preaching in England. So in those books there's not one mention of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur anywhere. It's simply Bon Maharaj writing about himself. So therefore when Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati saw that, he recalled him back to India. And he even went so far as to tell his other disciples that if he comes to my Vyasa Puja, don't allow him to come in. So he was banned from attending Bhaktisiddhanta's Vyasa Puja because he was not purely preaching, and therefore his words had no effect. If you want to be successful in your preaching, you have to be completely sold out, unflinching, no interest in anything else. Unfortunately, Bon Maharaj was not like that, but Prabhupada was. That's the difference between the two of them. Right, second question.
Thank you, Prabhuji. My second query is that you talked about Srila Prabhupada's family life. Okay, so from which book I can refer to that, I can read that in details? Like Bhakti Lata, Prabhupada's daughter you told about. So which book I can get that?
There's no book. At least as far as I know, there's no literature that's been written exclusively about the family. I mean, they pop up here and there at different times. There's another, not incident, but there was another exchange between Prabhupada and his second son, Mathura Mohan, where Mathura Mohan, he carried this resentment, that he'd been left with the family. So when Prabhupada arrived in Calcutta on August the 28th, 1970, one of the first things that happened was that Mathura Mohan served Prabhupada a solicitor's letter, and after several pages of criticizing him, then at the end of it he says, now you either give 3 lakhs rupees to the family or we'll take it to the newspapers and expose you as a fraud. This is his own son. So, does that answer your question? Well, it doesn't exactly, but I couldn't find any further documents how Prabhupada replied to that. But of course Prabhupada did, out of concern for the family, bought them a flat for their exclusive use, and that's still there. And the remaining immediate family members, Prabhupada's wife, not Prabhupada's wife, what's his name? Anyway, there was some history behind it, but it's not of any interest to us, except under certain circumstances. But it's not something that we need to put in a book and distribute. It has no relevance to Prabhupada's preaching and teaching. All right?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Thank you for your wonderful class. I have two questions. One is from your lecture, which is Prabhupada has differences with his godbrothers. That's why he started his own, ISKCON. So we have also read in the book, how those differences were while he was living in Vrindavan before taking sannyas. How was, he was requested to move out from the temple. My point is, at par with devotees like us, where, there are so many differences with our god brothers, even, towards the same service, then how, sometimes, they are right, far different that towards the approach. So how we can compensate towards this, rather than going out, which is obviously is not commendable. And maybe we can also, this ISKCON Bangalore is something like this only, I think. So maybe if you can put light so that we can remain in ISKCON and can sort this out, these differences, and work towards goal of Prabhupada.
You just have to be faithful to your spiritual master's instructions, that's all. If somebody doesn't want to surrender, there's nothing you can do to force them. If they can't be persuaded by, just like you've mentioned, this problem in Bangalore. So if you can't resolve things, they'll have their own way of, working around a direct instruction. Prabhupada gave a direct instruction that the management of the movement would become the chief responsibility of the GBC, the ultimate managing authority. But by, trickery or jugglery, somehow or another, you've got a group breaking away. They justify their leaving ISKCON in so many different ways. It happened during Prabhupada's time. There was a group from Hawaii. They joined ISKCON as a group, following this person. His name was Siddhaswarupananda. And he got to a certain point where he couldn't surrender anymore. And he had so many differences of opinion with the leadership in ISKCON. So he left. And even Srila Prabhupada couldn't persuade him to work cooperatively. So that will always be there. The tendency to fragment and criticize and fault find is always there. And you always have everybody has the opportunity to make a choice. You take Chisi to Thakuru. when Arjuna is, when Krishna is finished telling Arjuna everything that he needs to know, then at the end of it he tells him that now you decide what you want to do. So everybody's got that choice. Most people, if they're intelligent enough, they'll accept that, whatever Prabhupada arranged for us. Of course, he, what was it? He made this remark to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, that your love, after I'm gone, your love for me will be shown by how well you cooperate to maintain this institution. Now that usually gets, a little bit blurred. Prabhupada said your love will be shown by how well we work, together. But that's not exactly what Prabhupada said. What he actually said was, how will you work together to maintain this institution? So, people, they find quotes, like I saw one the other day, they find a quote where Prabhupada was asked, what is ISKCON? He made some critical remark about ISKCON. So Prabhupada's reply was, what is ISKCON? And its definition was that just anybody who's following his instructions and following the principles, he's ISKCON, or part of ISKCON. So sometimes people use that as a means for saying, well, Prabhupada said, you don't have to live in a temple to be Krishna conscious. So they don't like to cooperate with the institution. But then if you don't do that, if you don't cooperate together, then your energy gets dissipated. Like the Gaudiya Math, they were a very powerful preaching force in their day. But when they started fighting, immediately everything stopped. And they got more concerned with dividing up, who gets which temple and who's the next acharya, etc., etc. So, keep it simple. Prabhupada's institution, if it wasn't important, why would he spend his whole life, constructing it? Of course it's important, but whether we're actually honest enough, to acknowledge the structure and the leadership, that's another thing. You had another question?
It's a bit off the topic, but might be related with the same question. In ISKCON, I'm initiated from His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and he has thousands and thousands of initiated devotees and followers. So we are just, before him, we are just a blade of grass, and frankly speaking, we don't have any direct relationship. One-to-one that Guru is saying this and that, guiding this and that, you have to do this and that. So then how, sorry, I might be short of words, but sometimes it's very impersonalistic, that we are reading books, we are getting instruction, we are doing the service, that's okay. But sometimes, that component is missing, the personal touch is missing, So how can we, how can we manage all this? And sorry to frame, it's very difficult to frame exact question, but
I don't find that there's anything missing. Why you say missing?
the personal touch,
Well, you're a person, I'm a person, we're talking, right?
Yeah.
So where is the problem?
Maharaj has so many, it's not just with the Maharaj, but I've seen it many.
There are many disciples of Srila Prabhupada that never met him personally, but they're very enlivened and enthusiastic about preaching, because there's Vani and there's Vapu. And the Vani is more important than the Vapu. You're talking about personal, but the way that you're saying it means physical exchanges. But that's not the kind of personalism that we follow. Prabhupada was always the ultimate personal, he's the Supreme Personality of, server to Godhead. So that's the Guru. It's the Supreme Personality of server to Godhead. So you don't have to be in the same physical space, to understand what's been written or spoken. You just have to have an open heart. That's all. If you're feeling isolated, then there's something wrong in here that has to be fixed. It's not him that's the problem. It's not the GBC that's the problem. It's not the Guru's problem. It's your problem because you're not taking advantage of what they worked so hard to give you. If you want to appreciate Prabhupada or appreciate Gopal Krishna Maharaj or any of the, leaders of the movement, if you want to appreciate them, then follow their instructions. But if you let yourself get into this mental thing, that they have to be physically in the same space before you can recognize them as a personality, then that's clearly something you've got to work on. Right?
Prabhuji, Ban Maharaj was little bit offensive to his Guru Maharaj. He was rejected not to see the Vespuja. So that means, he was rejected by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
I can't tell what you're saying.
Ban Maharaj,
2
times he published some pamphlets. And then when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur understood that he is little bit, puffed up or something, so he was rejected by his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Yeah.
So that means he was little bit offensive to his Guru and
yes.
And then when
he was actually, Prabhupada told me this personally, he was, Maharaj was advised by some astrologer that you've committed a big offense against your Guru and you should do some penance to mitigate that. So Ban Maharaj went into some kind of a cellar or a cave for several years and just chanted. And then when he came out from his, and he was offering some bael leaves to Lord Shiva. After some years he's completed whatever vow it was, if it was a vow, and he got this idea about starting a educational institution, which he called the Oriental, I can't quite remember the name now. Anyway, Institute of Oriental Studies. So he started that. That was going to be his big project. But that was born out of, his trying to mitigate the offences that he created when he was sent to England as the preacher there. So you have the question or what?
The question is when he visited Prabhupada with Aukinjan Maharaj, his mood was to appreciative to Prabhupada or just, little bit like...
Whose mood?
When he visited Prabhupada with Aukinjan Maharaj, so...
Yes.
So my question is that whether he was appreciative to Prabhupada or...
No, I mean there's a certain level of friendship that was going on. If you want to get down into the nitty-gritty, then there's so many problems that were there. But at least, to keep it cordial, then there was still some friendly dealings with them. But Bon Maharaj was tainted. When Prabhupada disappeared, about a week later we had the Utsav. And at that time, the senior most Gaudiya Vaishnava in Vrindavan was Bon Maharaj. So we already knew, the criticisms that he was sometimes aiming at Prabhupada. Like I mentioned that he used to tour in America, Bon Maharaj. But in 75, when Prabhupada had completed the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we had the library party. They were going out and selling standing orders of Prabhupada's books. So Bon Maharaj knew about that, and he advised some professor in America not to buy Prabhupada's books. So on the one, on the cordial level, you can offer some praise, but he continued with his same mentality. And in 77, of course, at the Utsav, he got up and he said, Swami Maharaj has done so many wonderful things, because I'm not like him. I can't deal with all these hippies and, people like this. I'm more inclined to the scholars. So he's insulting Prabhupada at Prabhupada's Utsav, at his Tirubhav. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was Prabhupada's permanent secretary. So he had, with reluctance, invited Bon Maharaj to give, the, what's that word for giving a valedictoria, anyway, to give a speech in honor of Prabhupada. But even then he couldn't, he couldn't get over his envy. That's what it gets down to. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj stood up and walked off, and one or two of the other devotees did the same thing, because they just couldn't hear this man, criticizing Srila Prabhupada. And afterwards he again apologized that he, upset the devotees by what he said. So anyway, these things are not what we use. We don't go preaching, but it's and using these examples. It's not necessary, but it is useful in one sense to know, where a person is at really. So unfortunately, he was not, let's say he wasn't straightforward anyway. All right? That's finished. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. So we'll thank to Prabhu by chanting Hari Bol 3 times. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! So we have after the class we have prasadam, and we request all of you till the question answer session finishes, don't get up from the seats. এরপরে যে পাঠ বা লেকচার হবে তারপরে প্রসাদ হবে, তো প্রশ্ন উত্তর শেষ হওয়ার পর্যন্ত না উঠলে একটু ভালো হবে। তো আশা করি আপনারা ভালো বুঝতে পারছেন ভালোভাবে। আপনারা এফএম এনেছেন তো না? এফএম চলছে না? না এখন চলবে, আবার চলবে, আমরা কেউ বলছে না তো। ওকে, সো নাও we have with us what's the name? With us His Grace Krishnananda Prabhu. He'll speak on Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's pastime, right? Okay, Lord Chaitanya, sir. We request Krishnananda Prabhu, please come. So Krishnananda Prabhu is
Hare Krishna. His Grace Krishnananda Prabhu is a very senior disciple of His Holiness Raghunathas Swami Maharaj, and Prabhuji have joined ISKCON in 1983 in Radha Gopinath temple. Prabhuji have also seen Srila Prabhupada. He have met Prabhupada in 1977 in Cross Maidan and one more Pandal program as well. So Prabhuji is like very expert in the glories of Lord Chaitanya's pastime and glories of holy name, and he is now like traveling preacher since 25 years. In the earlier services, like he would be compiling all the pastimes, all the sections from different scriptures, like how holy name is the highest religion in this the Kali Yuga. So there are and now Prabhuji is very personal, and like he visits like every day, like he visits some or other home and shares the glories of holy name and shares the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji is famous for his nectarian Gaur Katha. So we fortunate to hear from his Prabhuji now. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Grateful to all the devotees for giving me this opportunity. Just like to have 2 minutes of Kirtan. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Jai Prabhupada. Jai Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav. Jayo Pancha Tattva, Jayo Pancha Tattva, Pancha Tattva, Jayo Pancha Tattva. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Agyantimirandhasya Kyananjana Shalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम राम। लिटिल लाउडर प्लीज। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So I'm feeling very grateful to all the devotees here for giving me this opportunity to serve by speaking something about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that the glories of Lord Chaitanya are unlimited. Even if Ananta Shesh, who has 1,000 mouths, were to try to glorify the Lord, he could not come to an end. Such is the unlimited nature of the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For self-purification, we try to speak something. We hear about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kaviraj Goswami explains, Shruyatam sada, Giyatam muda, Chintayatam sada, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shruyatam sada. One should hear repeatedly, bar sunna chahiye. We should hear again and again. And Giyatam muda should speak or glorify again and again with pleasure, muda, with happiness. And Chintayatam sada. One should remember or meditate on the glories of Lord Chaitanya. That is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Pehle sunna, fir bolna aur chintan karna. In this way, by meditating on the glories of Lord Chaitanya, we become purified. And that is the purpose of the human form of life. To purify one's existence and come to the realization of one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunay Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Koriya Uday. Love of God is dormant within the heart of every living being and it becomes manifest by the process of Shravanam, hearing and chanting. बार बार कृष्ण कथा सुनने से हम शुद्ध हो जाते। So last year I was given this service of speaking something in Sravana Utsav, And I began with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Jagannath, Puri. We were discussing sequentially from Chaitanya Charitamrita. पिछले साल हमने पहले 4-5 अध्याय अंत्य लीला के किए थे, अंत्य लीला chapter 1 to 5. So this time I am beginning from where I left off, and we are beginning with the 6th chapter. The 6th chapter, अंत्य लीला का छठा अध्याय, which is entitled Lord Chaitanya meets Raghunath Das Goswami. महाप्रभु और रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी का मिलन. This is a very important chapter because Raghunath Das Goswami is our Prayojan Acharya. As you know, the three main substances in bhakti is Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojan. 3 steps, Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojan. Sambandha means to try to understand one's relationship with the Supreme Lord. And the deity, the presiding deity for the Sambandha Tattva is Shri Radha Madana Mohana. And the Acharya for Sambandha Tattva is Srila Sanatana Goswami. The next stage is Abhideya. Abhideya means activities which help one realize one's relationship with Krishna. Abhideya Tattva है वो क्रियाएं जो भक्ति के लिए लाभदायक है. And the Acharya for Abhideya Tattva is Srila Rupa Goswami. And the deities is Shri Radha Govinda Dev. And the third stage is Prayojan. Prayojan means the ultimate goal of life, which is pure love for Krishna. And the Acharya for Prayojan Tattva is Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. And the deities are Shri Radha Gopinath. So discussing something about the meeting of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his dear associate Raghunath Das Goswami is very purifying and pleasing to the heart. Narottam Das Thakur has written a very beautiful song in this connection where he says, Gaurangera madhur lila jare karna praveshila hridaya nirmala bhela tara. Gaurangera madhur lila jare karna praveshila. When the sweet pastimes of Lord Gauranga enter into one's ears, hridaya nirmala bhela tara, his heart becomes purified. भगवान गौरंग की मधुर लीला सुनने से हमारा हृदय पवित्र हो जाता. So, even though we may have heard the pastime, we are advised to hear again and again and again. Like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was residing in Puri, every day he would hear Srimad Bhagavatam. रोज महाप्रभु भागवत सुनते थे. किससे सुनते थे? गदाधर पंडित. Gadadhar Pandit would speak every day and Lord Chaitanya would listen. The same story, sometimes 100 times. वही कहानी बार बार. Now if I tell the same story 2 times, people will think, Prabhuji, please, something new. You know, we all like to hear new things. But in Krishna consciousness, the same katha can be heard hundreds of times and it's ever new. It's filled with newer and newer realization of different devotees. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavi biriditam kalmasha Sravana mangalam Srimadatat. Krishna katha is auspicious to hear and purifying to the heart. So with the blessings of Srila Prabhupada and previous acharyas, Gurudev and all the assembled devotees, I will make a small insignificant attempt to repeat the blessed words of Srila Kaviraj Goswami as he is describing so beautifully in the Antya Leela, the pastimes which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed in Sri Kshetra, Jagannath Puri Dham. For 24 years, Mahaprabhu was here in Sri Dham, Mayapur, performing his childhood Leela, his Vidya Arjan Leela, scholarly pastimes. He was in the Grihastha ashram. At the age of 24, he took sannyas and then he left for Jagannath Puri. While in Puri, he went for 2 years, he left and went to South India, where he delivered the residents of South India. Then again, after some coming back from South India, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Vrindavan. First he attempted to go to Vrindavan, he came till Kanai Natshala and came back. And second time he actually went to Vrindavan through the forest of Jharkhand. And after coming back from Vrindavan, on the way back, he instructed Srila Rupa Goswami in Prayag and Srila Sanatana Goswami in Varanasi. So 6 years Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was travelling. First 24 years Navadip, 6 years after sannyas travelling, that is 30 years. In the last 18 years, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent in Jagannath Puri. Among the 18 years, the first 6 years, he was engaged in Nam Sankirtan, meeting with devotees. In the last 12 years, he was in complete seclusion. He would meet only very close devotees like Ramananda Rai, Swarup Damodar, Raghunathas Goswami. And that is the Antya Leela of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now what we are discussing today is the meeting of Raghunathas Goswami with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is very significant because Raghunathas Goswami, his behavior, his acharan is very exemplary. How he showed us by his example who is a perfect Vaishnava. Mahajana yena gatasa pantha. We cannot understand the behavior of Vaishnava simply by reading books, but only by studying the lives of great devotees, we can get a glimpse of true Vaishnavism. भक्तों के चरित्र का अध्ययन करने से हमें पता चलता है कि वैष्णव कौन है. Raghunathas Goswami, he was born in a very rich family in Adi Saptagram. He was the son of Govardhan Majumdar and his uncle's name was Hiranya Majumdar. And he had everything which a person would desire materially. Opulent house, beautiful wife, all the facilities. But somehow or other, he was very much attracted to joining Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or in today's language, joining ISKCON, because ISKCON is part of Lord Chaitanya's movement. So he was running away from home again and again. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once met him in Shantipur and he advised him that do not be a Markata Vairagi. Do not act like a monkey. Better you perform your duties nicely and in your heart always serve Radha and Krishna. So Raghunathas Goswami, he came back and now he was acting as if he is a materialistic person. But in his heart, he was again and again anxious to meet the Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His father and uncle, knowing that he was likely to leave home, they had 10 bodyguards. They had actually 12 servants. 2 of them were for cooking and other facilities, and 10 were just to prevent him from running away. Now, Hiranya Majumdar was also a devotee, but he was not a pure devotee. So he did not like his son joining full-time mission in today's language. So Raghunathas Goswami was thinking, every time I am trying, I am failing. बार बार मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, मेरे पिताजी जबरदस्ती पकड़ के ले आ रहे हैं, क्या किया जाए? What should I do? And his parents were also worried. One day, Raghunath's mother spoke to his father as follows. The beautiful verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela, chapter 6, verse number 38. She said, Putra Batula Haila, Iha Rakhiya Bandhiya, हमारा बेटा पागल हो गया है, इसको रस्सी से बांध दो. We should tie him up with ropes. बहुत ज़्यादा प्रोग्राम में जा रहा है ISKCON में, कि कंट्रोल करना चाहिए, नहीं तो ये ब्रह्मचारी बन जाएगा. So we should bind him up. And what did his father reply? His father was told to her, Indra sama Ishvarya Stri Apsara sama ये सब बांधीते नारी नारी ले जा रहा मना. Our son Raghunath, he has got opulence like Indra, the heavenly king, and his wife is as beautiful as an angel. Yet all this could not tie down his mind. So how can ropes bind him? हमारे बेटे के पास सुंदर पत्नी है और इंद्र के समान ऐश्वर्य है. अगर ये चीज नहीं बांध सकती तो रस्सी क्या बांधेगी? But what binds one to the material world is wealth, women, women for men and men for women, dhana, stri and pratishta. This is what binds one to this material world. That is why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing us how to get out of bondage by saying, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim. If one wants to get out of material world, he should learn to be detached from all material opulence and be attached to the opulence of chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. तो यहाँ पर बताया गया कि रघुनाथ दास बार बार भाग रहे थे और उनके माता पिता रोक रहे थे और उनके माँ बोल रही थी कि रस्सी से बांध दे. पिताजी बोले कोई फायदा नहीं है, इसके पास स्वर्ग का ऐश्वर्य है, वो नहीं बांध सकते तो रस्सी क्या बांध दी. तो हमें संसार में ये चीजें बांधती है, धन, स्त्री, मान सम्मान, प्रतिष्ठा. All problems generally you see in the material world are because of dhana, stri and property. There are so many courts, High Court, Supreme Court, and there is fight going on. For what? Do you find any court fighting for one person saying that other person he is reading more Bhagavatam, I am not able to read, or he is chanting more rounds. Most of the fights in this material world are for material things. But Lord Chaitanya is teaching us the process of na dhanam, na janam. How is that possible? By developing a higher taste. Param drishtva nivartate. When one develops taste for the holy name of Krishna, then automatically one loses the attraction for the material world. जब व्यक्ति को भगवान कृष्ण के प्रति आकर्षण जागृत होता है तो संसार के सब चीजें फीके लगते हैं. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was running to attain shelter of Lord Chaitanya again and again. So then his father is telling his Raghunath Das's mother that we cannot keep him at home. Chaitanya Chandra Kripa Haiche Ihare, Chaitanya Chandrera Batule Ki Rakhi Te Pare. That he has got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So who can keep home a madman of Lord Chaitanya? In other words, when one receives the mercy of Lord Gauranga, he will automatically develop detachment. महाप्रभु की कृपा मिल गई, इसका प्रूफ क्या है? वैराग्य. Sarvam Bhattacharya composed a beautiful verse glorifying Lord Chaitanya. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga shikshartameka purusha purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dhari Kripa Mudistam Aham Prapadye. He is glorifying Lord Chaitanya. He has come to give us bhakti accompanied by vairagya and vidya. वैराग्य और विद्या के साथ में, नॉलेज के साथ में. ये भक्ति जो हमको प्रभुपाद जी ने दिया है, चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने दिया, उसमें वैराग्य भी है और ज्ञान भी है, आध्यात्मिक ज्ञान. तो जैसे जैसे भक्ति में आगे बढ़ते हैं संसार की विरक्ति बढ़नी चाहिए. एज वी एडवांस वी शुड बी इंक्रीजिंग अवर रिनाउंसिएशन. दैट इज अ साइन ऑफ एडवांसमेंट इन कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस. सो हिज फादर इज थिंकिंग, how can we keep him home? He is attached to Lord Chaitanya. Nobody can stop him. Bhakti is ahetuki apratihata. Bhakti को कोई रोक नहीं सकता. The gopis, their husbands, their brothers, they tried to stop the gopis, but the gopis could not be stopped. When one receives the mercy of the Lord, no power can stop him. The mercy of the Lord is exhibited when one becomes attracted to Krishna in the form of his holy name, his holy katha. The wives of the Brahmanas, they had not even seen Krishna. But they were attracted. As soon as they heard that Krishna Balaram wants offering, they ran to meet Krishna. Why were they attracted? They never even saw Krishna. They didn't have any WhatsApp chat also at that time. There was no email. Because they had heard the glories of Krishna. ब्राह्मण पत्नियों ने कृष्ण के कथा सुनी थी, इसीलिए आकर्षित हुए. So I really want to thank the organizers of the Sravana Utsav, because the Shravanam is the first step towards spiritual realization. Just by hearing the glories of the Lord, one becomes purified and the mind starts taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So, one day Raghunath was thinking, I am trying my best, still I am unsuccessful. What should I do? मुझे क्या करना चाहिए? Then he was thinking, I should first get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. पहले नित्यानंद प्रभु की कृपा मिलेगी, फिर चैतन्य महाप्रभु की. So he went to meet Lord Nityananda Prabhu in Panihati. Some of you may have seen that beautiful tree still there on the bank of the Ganga, where Lord Nityananda gave mercy to Raghunath Das. Raghunath Das दूर से प्रणाम कर रहे हैं. नित्यानंद प्रभु बोलते हैं, चोर चोर, ये चोर है, ये जोर से प्रणाम क्यों कर रहा है? He's a thief. And Lord Nityananda was so merciful. Come here, I'll punish you. And Raghunath was hesitating. Raghunath पास में नहीं आ रहे थे. The Lord forcibly caught him and placed his lotus feet on the head of Raghunath Das Goswami. Just mercy. भगवान को पकड़ के कृपा दे रहे. बाकी लोग तरसते हैं, कब कृपा मिलेगी, आओ इधर होलसेल कृपा. That is Nityananda. Nitai pada kamala koti chandra sushitala. The Nityananda Prabhu's lotus feet, they are the object of meditation of Lord Shiva and Brahma. And those same lotus feet, Raghunath Das Goswami. Nityananda Prabhu ki kripa mil rahi hai Raghunath Das Goswami. And then Lord Nityananda told, Nikatana aise chor, bhage dure dure, dur bhag rahe ho chor, aaj ye dandi mein tomare, I will give you punishment, saja denge. Kya saja? Chila Dahi festival. Serve my devotees. सब भक्तों की सेवा करो. नित्यानंद प्रभु की सजा होती है ना, वो भी बड़ा आशीर्वाद होता है. संसारी व्यक्ति आशीर्वाद देता है, वो भी सजा होती है. Materialistic person, they'll give blessing. You have good wife, good husband, good money and good job, and lovingly go to hell, after forgetting Krishna. So भौतिक दुनिया में कोई वरदान देता है, पैसे मिले, धन स्त्री मिले, और भगवान को भूल गए तो नरक जा रहे हैं. और साधु शाप भी देते हैं, वो भी वरदान होता है. नारद मुनि curse Nala Kuber and Mani Grieve to become trees, but eventually we see that same curse became a blessing. They became trees in Vrindavan Dham and they had darshan of Lord Krishna. कितना बड़ा आशीर्वाद है, भगवान के दर्शन हो गए शाप मिलने के बाद भी. तो नित्यानंद प्रभु को कौन समझ सकता? Who can understand? He apparently is punishing somebody, but actually he is giving mercy. Shivananda Sen was the yatra manager for all the devotees going to Puri. Shivananda Sen yatra manage कर रहे थे, और एक दिन थोड़ा प्रसाद लेट हो गया और accommodation नहीं हुआ. And Lord Nityananda was very angry. कहाँ गेला नित्यानंद? नित्यानंद कहाँ गए? आमी भूखे व्याकुल हईला. I am hungry. Where is Shivananda? I curse him. Let all the 3 children die. तीनों बेटे मर जाएं. अभी कितना बड़ा शाप लगता है. नहीं, आपको कोई बोले, साधु बोले आपके बच्चे मर जाएं, हरे कृष्ण, ये साधु है कि आसुर है? ऐसे हम दुश्मन को भी शाप नहीं देंगे. We will never say to anybody, your children die. Even to the communist we will not say like this, But Shivananda Sen's wife was crying. But Shivananda said, don't worry, this is also a blessing. ये आशीर्वाद है. And Shivananda Sen went to meet Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda did not ask any question, what happened. He immediately kicked him on the chest. सबके सामने छाती पे लात मार दिया. पहले punishment, बाद में trial. What kind of logic is this? First there should be discussion, who is wrong, who is right. But before discussion, punishment, then we will discuss. This is Nityananda. Nitaira kripa have, Raja Radha Krishna pabe. So, inconceivable pastimes of Lord Nityananda. हमारी बुद्धि से परे है। बुद्धि से समझ जाना है क्या कि बुद्धि से परे है। अंडरस्टैंड दैट दिस इज बियॉन्ड अंडरस्टैंडिंग, द मर्सी ऑफ लॉर्ड नित्यानंद। मार खाए प्रेम दे, जगाई मदाई आर अटैकिंग लॉर्ड नित्यानंद एंड लॉर्ड नित्यानंद इज स्माइलिंग। नित्यानंद प्रभु के ऊपर आक्रमण किया, मुस्कुरा रहे हैं, उनको कुछ नहीं बोलते। और शिवानंद सेन सर्विस कर रहे हैं, उसको लात मार रहे हैं। Shivananda Sen is doing service, a small fault, and Lord Nityananda is kicking him. Now, if I were there in that party, I would say, okay, I am leaving this. I am going to another institute. Hari bol. ज़्यादा दादागिरी कर रहे हैं, too much arrogance. But Shivananda actually got mercy. Lord Chaitanya was so pleased with Shivananda. One day he told his servant, Govinda, whatever my remnants are there, Mahaprasad, give it to Shivananda Sen and his family members. शिवानंद सेन के परिवार को पूरा महाप्रसाद दो। हम तो झगड़ते हैं, एक छोटा सा रोटी का टुकड़ा मिले गुरु महाराज का, वैष्णव का, वो पूरा प्लेट दे रहे हैं। एंड शिवानंद सेन सन लॉर्ड चैतन्य महाप्रभु पुट हिज लोटस टो इनसाइड द माउथ ऑफ दैट चाइल्ड, उसको बोला चूसो अंगूठे को। दैट इज द मर्सी ऑफ लॉर्ड नित्यानंद चैतन्य। भजो भजो भाई चैतन्य निताई, सुदृढ़ विश्वास कोरी। दिस सॉन्ग परम करुणा was very dear to our founder आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद। प्रभुपाद जी को बहुत प्रिय था। एक बार तो भजन गाते गाते प्रभुपाद एक्सटेसी में आ गए, could not control, he was crying in tears. Mercy of Lord Chaitanya Nityanand. That is how we are here in Mayapur. At least I have no qualification, हमारा कोई qualification नहीं। Causeless mercy of Nityanand Prabhu coming through Srila Prabhupada. We should cherish being in the Dham and take advantage of every moment by constantly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Raghunathas Goswami was very happy. He was ordered to serve chida dahi. He called all his servants and they prepared chida dahi, chida doodh, rice, yogurt, milk, sweet, mangoes, and all the residents of Panihati, they came and everybody was given 2 pots. One is chida dahi and chida doodh, milk and chida and yogurt. And there were so many devotees. Nityananda was sitting under that banyan tree and there were devotees surrounding him, and then there were devotees below that, and some devotees who did not get space, they were sitting inside the Ganga with 2 pots. I don't know how it is possible, but everyone inside the water with 2 pots. And then, at that moment, Lord Nityananda, by his love, he invited Lord Chaitanya to come. Now Lord Chaitanya is staying in Jagannath Puri, and Lord Nityananda is in Panihati, which is near Calcutta, 450 kilometers apart. But by his mystic power, by his love, Lord Nityananda is inviting Lord Chaitanya to come and accept this chida dahi. Nobody could see it. Nobody could see this pastime except Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. And Lord Chaitanya is feeding Lord Nityananda, and Lord Nityananda is feeding Lord Chaitanya. ये ऐसी मिस्टिक लीला हुई कि चैतन्य महाप्रभु जगन्नाथ पुरी में और चिड़ा दही उत्सव हो रहा है पानीहट्टी में 400 किलोमीटर के बीच में, और बड़े प्रेम से with great love Lord Nityananda is serving chida dahi to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya is serving to Lord Nityananda. And then after feeding Lord Chaitanya, then he ordered all the devotees, please accept the prasad and chant Hari Hari. Please chant loudly Hari Hari, Hari 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 Hari. Just chant Hari, no more worry. लाइफ में कुछ भी हो जाए हमेशा बोलना है हरि हरि। आपका बिजनेस में एक दिन में 10 लाख का प्रॉफिट हो गया तो क्या बोलना है हरि हरि। अगले दिन बिजनेस बंद हो गया तो क्या बोलना है आपको बहुत अच्छा स्वास्थ्य हो गया, गुड हेल्थ, क्या बोलना है बहुत बीमारी आ गई हरि हरि। जो भी हो जाए लाइफ में, भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर से गृहे ठाको वने ठाको सदा हरि बोले डाको। गृह ठाको वने ठाको, घर में रहो जंगल में रहो हमेशा बोलते रहो हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Somehow or other take shelter of the holy name. And Narottam Das Thakur says, Grihe bhavane te Thakur, ha Gauranga bole Thakur. Narottama mage tarasan. One who is either in house or in the forest, one who constantly chants the name of Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. आपकी आवाज से लग रहा है 3 दिन से कुछ खाया नहीं है आपने. Please chant loudly, at least should reach Radha Madhav altar. Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. This is, by chanting the name of Gauranga, we become purified. हम शुद्ध बन जाते हैं. नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर बोलते हैं, जे गौरांगेर नाम लए तारा है प्रेमोदय. Just by chanting the name of Gauranga, love of Krishna will become manifest. But you have to keep chanting. एक भक्त पूछ रहे थे, प्रभु जी आपने 1 साल पहले भी बोला था, अभी भी बोल रहे हैं गौरंग का नाम लो, हम ले रहे हैं, कुछ हो नहीं रहा. अप्लाई नो रिप्लाई, कुछ हो नहीं रहा है. तो मैंने वही बोला, चैंट कंटिन्यूअसली, गो ऑन चैंटिंग, एंड बाय चैंटिंग कंटिन्यूअसली वी कैन अटेन परफेक्शन. सो Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda Prabhu accepted this service, and then I would like to concentrate on the prayers of Raghunath Das Goswami. After the whole festival was over, everybody was served to their full satisfaction, and then Raghunath Das Goswami is offering beautiful prayers, begging for the mercy of Lord Nityananda. अभी आप देखोगे ये लीला में रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी को कृपा मिलती है, चैतन्य महाप्रभु का संग मिलता है. किसके द्वारा? नित्यानंद. पहले नित्यानंद, फिर गौरंग. सनातन गोस्वामी, रूप गोस्वामी, when they meet Lord Chaitanya first time, where do they meet first time? Ramkheli. They are offering obeisances from a distance, and it is Nityananda Prabhu who brings them to Lord Chaitanya. Jagai Madhai, Lord Chaitanya was going to kill them. चैतन्य महाप्रभु इतने गुस्से हुए, चक्र, सुदर्शन चक्र से जगाई मदाई को मार रहे थे, लेकिन किसने बचाया? नित्यानंद. So Lord Nityanand's mercy is most important. Without Nityananda Prabhu's mercy, we cannot get Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And without Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we cannot get love for Radha Madhav. And Lord Nityananda's mercy is manifest through the most merciful, His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We have to take shelter of Prabhupada's instruction, as Harishauri Prabhu was so nicely explaining. By following the instructions of Prabhupada, we get that mercy. मर्सी बोलने से नहीं मिलता, दया करो महाराज, दया करो क्या भाई, चैंटिंग करो पहले, है ना. नहीं चैंटिंग नहीं करेगा, सेवा नहीं करेगा, लेकिन दया करो ना. वी गेट मर्सी ऑफ प्रभुपाद बाय सर्विंग इन ISKCON and by chanting Hare Krishna. There is no other way. We have to do practical service. So now I would concentrate on the prayers offered by Raghunath Das Goswami to Lord Nityananda. He went with folded hands and said, Adham pamar mui hina jivadham mora ichha hai pae chaitanya charana. मैं अधम हूँ, I am very fallen, degraded, but I have the desire to attain shelter of Lord Gauranga. भगवान चैतन्य महाप्रभु की कृपा चाहिए. वामन है जे न चांद धरी बारे चाय. वामन, dwarf, I am dwarf and trying to touch the moon. मैं इतना छोटा हूँ, ऊपर चांद पकड़ने का प्रयास कर रहा हूँ. अनेक यत्न कईनु तटे सिद्धि नहीं है. बहुत बार ट्राई किया, सफल नहीं हुए. Many times I tried, but my mother, father. And now it's a very important verse. तुम्हारा कृपा बिना के हो चैतन्य नहीं पाए. Please repeat. तुम्हारा कृपा बिना के हो चैतन्य नहीं पाया. तुम्ही कृपा कैले तार अधम ही पाए. Without your mercy, you cannot get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And if you are merciful, even the lowest adhama, papi, he can attain. आपकी कृपा के बिना चैतन्य महाप्रभु की कृपा नहीं मिलती. I am unfit, I am afraid to submit, but I am begging you, please give me shelter of Lord Chaitanya. चैतन्य महाप्रभु की कृपा दो। मोरे माथे पद धरी करह प्रसाद, निर्विघ्न चैतन्य पाई करी आशीर्वाद। मोरे माथे पद धर, मेरे माथे के ऊपर आपका चरण रखो और आशीर्वाद दो। क्या आशीर्वाद? निर्विघ्न चैतन्य पाए। प्लीज पुट योर लोटस फीट ऑन माई हेड, गिव मी द बेनेडिक्शन that may attain the shelter of Lord Gauranga. Without difficulty, I want to attain the shelter of Lord Gauranga. Lord Nityananda smiled. He smiled, hasne lage, and he told the devotees, Ihara Vishaya Sukha Indra Sukha Samahay. He has got opulence like the king of the heavenly planets, Indra, but he has no taste for material enjoyment. दिस इज साइन ऑफ एडवांसमेंट। भक्ति में आगे बढ़ने का मतलब क्या है? इंद्रिय तृप्ति की इच्छा कम होनी चाहिए। जैसे बीमारी कम हो रही मतलब टेम्परेचर कम होना चाहिए। कोई बोलता है प्रभु जी बीमारी कम हो रही है लेकिन टेम्परेचर 105 हो गया, तो फिर वो गलत बोल रहे हैं। कई डिवोटी बोलते हैं प्रभु जी आई एम एडवांसिंग वेरी नाइसली बट माई ईटिंग एंड स्लीपिंग इज वर्किंग मोर, एंड आई एम नॉट हैविंग टेस्ट फॉर रीडिंग भागवतम बट आई लाइक पिज्जा प्रसाद वेरी मच। दैट इज ऑल्सो गुड, पिज्जा प्रसाद, बट यू मस्ट डेवलप लव फॉर होली नेम। As we advance, we should pray to Krishna every day, please give me taste for the holy name. भगवान से भीख मांगनी चाहिए कि मेरे को हरि नाम में रुचि दो। The beautiful prayer written by Bhakti Vinod Thakur in a book called Hari Naam Chintamani. बहुत सुंदर prayer है। I would like all the devotees to recite this prayer. Please try to repeat. मेरे पीछे बोलिए। कृपा करी नाम रूपे मोर जिभाया, निरंतर नाच प्रभु धरी तव पाया। कृपा करी नाम रूपे मोर जीवाय। ओ माय लॉर्ड, प्लीज बी मर्सीफुल एंड डांस ऑन माय टंग इन द फॉर्म ऑफ द होली नेम। हे प्रभु, आप नाम के रूप में मेरी जीवा पर नृत्य करो। व्हेन यू आर चैंटिंग, प्रभुपाद सेज, व्हेन यू आर चैंटिंग, राधा माधव इज डांसिंग ऑन योर टंग। राधा माधव नृत्य कर। दैट we should have that consciousness that now God is appearing. Radha Rani, Radha Madhav, Panchatattva, they are appearing when I am chanting Hare Krishna. मेरी जीवा पर राधा कृष्ण आए हैं, तो मैं कैसे सो सकता हूँ? Can you imagine if a very VIP person comes and he comes to the temple or to your home and you welcome him and then go to sleep? So ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए। भगवान नाम के रूप में है। नाम कली काले नाम रूपे कृष्ण अवतार, नाम हते है सर्व जगत उद्धार। And then Lord Nityananda told the devotees, just see Raghunath's character. चैतन्य कृपा ते सेह नाही भाए मने, सबे आशीर्वाद कर पाए चैतन्य चरण। All of you bless him so that he can attain Lord Chaitanya. कृष्ण पाद गत पद्म गंध जय जन पाए, ब्रह्मलोक आदि सुख तारा नाही भाए। One who experiences कृष्ण पाद पद्म गंध, जिसको कृष्ण पाद पद्म मीन्स लोटस फीट, कृष्ण के चरण कमल का थोड़ा फ्रेग्रेंस मिलता है, ब्रह्मलोक नहीं भाए। हाँ, he doesn't like ब्रह्मलोक, what to speak of Calcutta लोक, बॉम्बे लोक, न्यूयॉर्क लोक, he doesn't like ब्रह्मलोक, he likes मायापुर लोक, Vrindavan, Jagannath, Puri. These are the places where devotees want to come and stay. And Prabhupada's dream is coming true in the form of this Temple of Vedic Planetarium, the whole Mayapur project. Prabhupada wanted devotees to come, especially during this part of the year. Prabhupada जी की इच्छा थी कि मायापुर फेस्टिवल में हजारों भक्त आएं और उसमें भाग लें, और भाग लेकर भगवान की कथा सुने और जोर से नाम संकीर्तन करें, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Then Lord Nityananda called him, Raghunath, come here. Raghunath, idhar aao. And then he put his feet on the head of Raghunath and he said, today you have served all the devotees so nicely. Definitely Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here to show you mercy, and he took the chida dahi. And now very soon Lord Chaitanya will accept you and place you under the care of Swarup Damodar Goswami. You will become the servant of Swarup Damodar Goswami, who is the servant of Lord Chaitanya. उन्होंने पहले ही बता दिया, अभी बहुत जल्दी आपका उद्धार हो गया, आपका टिकट कंफर्म हो गया जो RAC था। आपने सेवा कर ली, अब आपको भगवान स्वरूप दामोदर के अंडर रखेंगे। नित्यानंद प्रभु इज सर्वज्ञ, त्रिकालज्ञ, he knows past, present, future. The Lord Chaitanya will accept him and put him under the care of Sarup Damodar Goswami. And then one day Raghunath Das Goswami observed, night time he was sleeping, रात को सो रहे थे, Yadunandan Acharya came and woke him up. Raghunath, get up, get up. It is time for Mangal Aarti, but Pujari has not come. मंगल आरती का समय हो रहा है, पुजारी नहीं आए, चलो पुजारी को उठाते हैं, विल गो टू वेक अप द पुजारी. एंड रघुनाथ गॉट अप एंड सॉ ऑल द गार्ड्स वर फास्ट अस्लीप. सारे चौकीदार सोए हैं. रघुनाथ थॉट दिस इज गुड अपॉर्चुनिटी. ही टोल्ड यदुनंदन, आई विल गो एंड टेक केयर ऑफ कॉलिंग द पुजारी. आपको आने की जरूरत नहीं, मैं जाता हूं. और यदुनंदन वेंट बैक एंड रघुनाथ पलाइला. He ran away from home to join the party of Lord Gauranga. Volume कम ज़्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए, constantly same volume. Gauranga. भजो भजो भाई गौरंग नित्य चैतन्य नित्य. So Raghunath was running and his father got up. Says, where is Raghunath? Oh, Raghunath has left. Let us chase him. Raghunath भाग रहे इसके पीछे पीछे. रघुनाथ जानबूझ के मेन रोड से नहीं जा रहे, उनको मालूम है कि पिताजी भेजेंगे. वो भागे एंड ही एक्चुअली रैन फॉर ऑलमोस्ट, इट टुक हिम 12 days. 12 दिन तक भागते रहे. और रास्ते में इट वॉज नॉट दैट ही वॉज कैरिंग सम बिग हॉट पॉट वेर ही हैड सम नाइस प्रसाद और सम लड्डूस, चिवड़ा और बर्गर्स, कुछ नहीं था. कंप्लीटली डिपेंडेंट ऑन कृष्णा. समटाइम ही गॉट ग्लास ऑफ मिल्क. इन द 12 days ही टुक प्रसाद ओनली 3 or 4 times. 12 दिन में खाली 4 बार प्रसाद, यानी 3 दिन में 1 बार. हम लोग का होता है 1 दिन में 3 बार, इनका 3 दिन है. ओनली डिफरेंस ऑफ ग्रामर, एंड ही हैड ओनली वन थॉट, I want to meet Lord Chaitanya. I want to meet Lord Chaitanya. मुझे महाप्रभु को मिलना है. श्रील गौर गोविंद महाराज बोलते हैं ऐसा लौल्यम होना चाहिए. That greed is needed. If you want to attain love for Krishna, you must have only one price. Lौल्यम, greed. That intense greed to attain the shelter of Lord Gauranga. And finally, sometimes he drank milk, sometimes fried grains and whatever was available, and then finally he reached Jagannath Puri. And Lord Chaitanya was sitting with Sarup Damodar, and Mukunda Dutt said, just see, Raghunath has come. Raghunath aaye, dekho unka swagat karna hai. And Lord Chaitanya called him very close, but Raghunath was so humble. He clasped the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. रघुनाथ ने भगवान के चरणों को टाइटली पकड़ लिया और भगवान ने उनको गले लगाया. और महाप्रभु बहुत सुंदर बोले, प्रभु कहे कृष्ण कृपा बलिष्ठ सब हैते, तुम्हारे काढ़िल विषय विष्टागरते हैते. महाप्रभु said, mercy of Krishna is stronger than anybody else. Krishna has delivered you from the ditch of materialistic life where people go to pass stool. भगवान ने आपको गड्ढे से निकाल दिया जहां लोग मल मूत्र करने जाते हैं. मेटेरियलिस्टिक लाइफ विदाउट कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस इज कंपेयर्ड टू अ प्लेस वेयर पीपल पास टू. कृष्ण ने आपको बचा दिया, बट रघुनाथ कहे नो 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 नो. रघुनाथ मने कहे आमी कृष्ण नहीं जानी, आमी कृष्ण नहीं जानी, तव कृपा काढ़िला आमी. आई नो दैट यू हैव सेव्ड मी. द डिवोटी वांट्स टू गिव क्रेडिट नॉट ओनली टू कृष्णा but to the spiritual master and to all the Vaishnavas. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavat Gita. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled and told Raghunath, your father Jagannath Mishra and his elder brother, Raghunath Das, he told Raghunath, your father, that is Govardhan Majumdar, and your uncle Hiranya Majumdar, they are very close friends with my grandfather Nilambar Chakravarti. Therefore I am thinking that your father is like my grandfather. मैं आपके नाना जी हैं नीलांबर, मेरे दादा के बराबर हैं. So your father, they are attached to material world. They are almost Vaishnavas, but not pure Vaishnavas. Therefore, they are attached. So, Krishna has saved you from materialistic family life. Krishna ने आपका उद्धार किया. Lord Chaitanya took the hand of Raghunath and handed over to Sauri Damodar. Sauri Damodar को दिया, बोले आज से आप इनकी देखभाल करो. Now you take care. Treat him like your servant or like your son. अपने बेटे की तरह रखो. So Lord Chaitanya, now there were three Raghunath. Raghunath Bhatta, Raghunath Dasa and Raghunath Vaidya. Three Raghunaths are described. And Lord Chaitanya told Govinda, please give him nice prasad. He has fasted for many days, he has not eaten prasad. उनको अच्छा सेवा दो, प्रसाद दो, उनका हेल्थ अच्छा होना चाहिए. And Lord Chaitanya told Raghunath, now go to see Lord Jagannath, have darshan of Lord Jagannath and then come and take prasad. Then Raghunath met all the devotees, they were so happy. This was a family gathering. He was united with all the devotees. And Raghunath, after seeing Lord Jagannath darshan, he came back. And Govinda gave him all the Maha Prasad. Lord Chaitanya told, give all my Maha Prasad to Raghunath Das Goswami. Why? Why was Lord Chaitanya so happy with Raghunath? Because Raghunath had this quality of humility and renunciation. Vairagya and Namrata. उनके अंदर नम्रता थी और वैराग्य था. भगवान को प्रसन्न करने के लिए दोनों जरूरी हैं. And Raghunath Das Goswami, he was so humble. He was simply begging alms at the Singha Dwar. That main entrance, जो जगन्नाथ जी का main entrance होता है उसको बोलते हैं सिंह द्वार. तो सिंह द्वार के पास खड़े रहते और कोई आके प्रसाद दे देता तो खा लेते. ऐसा नहीं कि वो उनके पास पैसे नहीं थे, सब पैसे त्याग दिए. त्यक्त्वा तूर्णम अशेष मंडलपति श्रेणीम सदा तुच्छवत. Prabhupada glorified, he said, our Goswamis, they were on the level of king. They gave up everything and became like humble beggars to beg for the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. सब कुछ त्याग दिया उन्होंने. करोड़पति परिवार से थे और जगन्नाथ मंदिर में दरवाजे के पास भिक्षा मांग रहे हैं. महाप्रभु भक्त गणेरा वैराग्य प्रधान. बोलिए महाप्रभु जहाँ देखी प्रीति है गौर भगवान. Prabhupada translates, renunciation is the basic principle sustaining the life of Lord Chaitanya's devotees. When Lord Chaitanya sees renunciation, he becomes extremely satisfied. अगर हमें भगवान की कृपा चाहिए तो वैराग्य जरूरी है. And one day Lord Chaitanya asked, I don't see Raghunath near the Singha Dwar. Where is Raghunath? आजकल रघुनाथ दिखते नहीं ऐसी दरबार के पास में. So Govinda replied, he said, actually he was first taking prasad at the Singha Dwar, but now he is thinking that this is not good mentality. One becomes attached. Oh, this person is very nice. He gave me nice khaja and malpua and pura pitha and kheer. आप सबको मालूम है पुरी में क्या क्या मिलता है? खीर, मालपुआ. जगन्नाथ पुरी में कौन सा एरिया है जहाँ प्रसाद बांटते हैं? व्हाट इज दैट कॉल्ड? हाँ, सब लेक्चर भूल जाते हैं लेकिन ये याद रहता है. आनंद बाजार, यू नो, सबसे फेवरेट सबका स्थान. सन्यासी के लिए, गृहस्थ के लिए फेवरेट स्थान है. तो रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी, ही वॉज नॉट गोइंग टू द बाजार. वो खाली दरवाजे के पास खड़े थे. फिर भी वो सोचे अच्छा नहीं है. इसमें क्या आता है? You develop that prostitute mentality. Oh, he is a nice person. He gave me malpua. Oh, he is not nice. He gave me only khichdi. है ना? तो उसमें you develop distinction mentality. And very nice verse Lord Chaitanya told. He said, "Vairagi koribe sada nama sankirtana." Please repeat. Magiya khaya kare jivana rakshana. A sannyasi should always chant the holy name. The main principle of sannyas is to chant the holy name. So even grahastha can be like sannyasi, a brahmachari also. If you are always chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, that constant chanting of the holy name is the most important thing for all varnas and ashrams. Kirtaniya Sadahari. It's not only for sannyasi, for grahasthas also. Always chant Hare Krishna. Take shelter of Krishna. Bhakti Vinod Thakur was grahastha, but he was constantly chanting. Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, his son, is a brahmachari, but he is also chanting. The central principle is holy name. Mahaprabhu's teachings is the holy name. And then Lord Chaitanya told a beautiful verse. Vairagi hai kare parapeksha, karya siddhi nahi Krishna kare upeksha. If a person is renounced order, should not depend on others. If he does so, he will be unsuccessful, he will be neglected by Krishna. अगर कोई भगवान पर डिपेंडेंट नहीं होता, दूसरे पर डिपेंड होता है, तो कृष्ण कृपा नहीं करेंगे. One of the symptoms of surrender, 6 symptoms is Rakshati Krishna iti Vishwasu. Krishna is my protector, Krishna is my maintainer. वही सब कुछ करने वाले, सब कुछ कृष्ण ही दे रहे, कृष्ण ही सब कुछ है. And what happens? वैरागी है करे जीवेर लालसा, परमार्थ जाए आरसेर अवश. If a vairagi, sannyasi, is eager to taste different foods, his spiritual life will be lost and he will become subservient to the taste. So, what should a vairagi do? Vairagi kritya sada nama sankirtana shaka patra phula mule udara bharana. A sannyasi should chant the holy name and whatever is available, vegetables, shak, phal, mool, he should accept it. And otherwise, जीवेर लालसा जे इति उति दाय शिष्णोदर parayan Krishna nahi पाए. A person who is Shishnodar Parayan, not Narayan Parayan, Krishna Parayan, but Shishnodar, Shishna Udara. Shishna means genitals and Udara means belly. One who is servant of the senses, he cannot become pure devotee. Krishna nahi paye. So we have to become Krishna Parayan, Nam Parayan. Then one day Raghunathas Goswami asked one question. Swarup Damodar, please tell me, what is my duty? मैंने संन्यास तो ले लिया, घर छोड़ दिया, मैं आ गया अभी जगन्नाथ पुरी में, मुझे क्या करना चाहिए? What is the duty? And Raghunathas Goswami, very humble, he did not go to Lord Chaitanya directly. He would ask questions to Swarup Damodar Goswami. And Swarup Damodar Goswami would ask Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. तो चैतन्य महाप्रभु के पास जाके प्रश्न पूछे. Swarup Damodar is saying to Lord Chaitanya, Raghunath wants to ask some question to you. Please tell him what is the duty of a person in the renounced order of life. Sannyasi का क्या कर्तव्य है? Lord Chaitanya told Raghunath, I have already told you, Baba, you take shelter of Swarup Damodar. Swarup Damodar is your guide. And I also don't know as much as Swarup Damodar knows. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu बोल रहे हैं, आमी तत नहीं जाने इहो यत जाने, आमी नहीं जाने स्वरूप जाने. Lord Chaitanya is exhibiting this humility. He is saying, even I don't know as much as Swarup Damodar goes. Please ask him. But now since you have asked me, I will tell you. I will tell you. Now what Lord Chaitanya is instructing, this is the most important part of today's discussion. This is for all varnas and ashram, but especially for sannyas. Gramya katha na shuniba, gramya varta na kahiba. Please repeat. Gramya katha. Bhala na khaiba, bhala na pariba. Gramya katha na shuniba. All village talk, newspaper, internet. If internet is connected to Krishna's service, it is very good. But just mundane news, this is all Gramya Katha. Anything not connected to Krishna is Gramya Katha. Or finding fault with devotees. भक्तों में दोष देखना, आपको मालूम है उस डिवोटी ने क्या किया? हाँ बता, किसी को बताना मत, आप दूसरे किसी को बताना, पूरे वर्ल्ड को मालूम पड़े, किसी को बताना मत. Even if there is some fault in devotee, you should pray to Krishna. Krishna will correct. Why should I become head of the department of fault finding? We should never see fault in others. Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur बोलते थे, I see fault in others because I am with faults. मेरे अंदर दोष है, मैं एक उंगली दिखा रहा हूँ, ये fault है, तो 4 उंगली मेरी तरफ. Gramya Katha na shuniba. Sometimes devotees say, Prabhuji, I don't speak, but he was speaking, I was humbly hearing. मैं हाथ जोड़ के सुन रहा था. That is also your fault. One who hears and speaks, both have to suffer. Just like Krishna Katha, audience and speaker both got benefited. Gramya Katha, both have to suffer. So Gramya Katha na kahiba, Gramya Katha na shuniba. Or bhala na khaiba. Prasad ka time ho raha hai, yes. Mahaprabhu is saying bhala na khaiba. It's very simple prasad. The more you eat opulent prasad means more money, energy is spent. And of course one benefit is doctors get benefited also. ज़्यादा opulent प्रसाद खाने से डॉक्टर को थोड़ा सेवा मिलता है, पैसा कमाने को मिलता है. But bhala na khaiba and bhala na poriba. Simple clothes. Lord Chaitanya is teaching simplicity is Vaishnavism. Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur would say simplicity, saralta is Vaishnav. Dandavat, not sarpavat, straightforward. Not Harishari Prabhu was very nicely explaining the example, that somebody is not straightforward. So devotee should be straightforward in dealing. Not that think one thing and then manipulate and be very simple. The Lord will give mercy to one who is simple-hearted. Lord, even if one is very advanced but is crooked, then he will not get mercy. Lord Chaitanya is patit pavan but not kapati pavan. Patit pavan hai, kapati nahi. Don't try to cheat because you will cheat yourself. So Lord Chaitanya says, bhalana khaiba. And then next he said, amani manadahaya Krishna nama sadalib. Amani manadahaya. Amani manada, amani means not expecting any respect and giving all respects to others. सबको प्रणाम करना. कभी कभी क्या होता है हम प्रणाम करते हैं देखते हैं वो कर रहे हैं कि नहीं कर रहे. वो नहीं कर रहा हम भी नहीं करेंगे next time. But our mood should be amani na manade. And vraje Radha Krishna seva manase koribe. This is very nice translation. Prabhupada says, always chant the holy name of Krishna and within your mind render service to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Vrindavan mein, you may be in any part of the world, Bombay, New York, London, but your heart should be in Vrindavan or Mayapur. Always think of the lotus feet of the Lord. And how do you come to Vrindavan or Mayapur? Physically, any part of the world. But if you simply chant the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. But this is the essence of all knowledge. ये सब ज्ञान का सार है. चैतन्य महाप्रभु रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी को दे रहे हैं, हमको भी दे रहे हैं. तो क्या है? अमानीना मान देना. Next verse is त्रिनादपि, please त्रिनादपि सुनी चेना तरोरिवा सहिष्णुना अमानीना मान देना कीर्तनीय सदा. This verse, one who thinks himself lower than a blade of grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, gives all respects to others and expects none in return, he can always chant the holy name. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu बोलते हैं, I raise my arms and declare that you should put this verse around your neck like a kanthi mala. ये श्लोक को गले में डाल के रखो. कौन सा श्लोक? त्रिनादपि सुनी छेना तरोरपि सहिष्णु अमानेन मान देना कीर्ति. 100 times of day we should remember this verse. Then we can chant Hare Krishna properly. हरि नाम लेने का तरीका यही है कि ये श्लोक को याद करना. Do not differentiate young, old, men, women, learned, foolish. Anybody who is a Vaishnav, give all respects. And give all respect to all living beings. Krishna adhisthane sarve jive jani. How to offer respects to all animals, birds? Because Krishna is in the heart of every living being. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hriddesha arjuna tishtati. भगवान सबके हृदय में है. सबको आदर देना और आदर की इच्छा नहीं करना. Then we can chant Kirtaniya Sada Hari. So this is, Lord Chaitanya said, this is my instruction, I have given you briefly. And if you want more details, you can ask Swarup Damodar Goswami. So what we learn from this is Raghunath Das's mood. He did not approach Lord Chaitanya directly. वो चैतन्य महाप्रभु के पास नहीं गए, वो स्वरूप दामोदर के पास गए. कभी कभी हमारा टेंडेंसी होता है, हम सोचते हैं कि अरे मेरे अथॉरिटी है, उतने अच्छे नहीं है, मैं डायरेक्टली स्पिरिचुअल मास्टर के पास जाऊँ. Then I will go directly to the spiritual master because my authority is not pure devotee, So whether he is pure or not, if Guru has put, the temple has put authority to follow the authority, servant of the servant. Material life and spiritual life, what is the difference? भौतिक जीवन, आध्यात्मिक जीवन, Spiritual life is servant of the servant. Das dasanu das. A material life क्या है? Boss bossanu boss. You know? Boss का boss बनना. Everyone wants to be controller. But spiritual life is servant. Dasus. When Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur in Calcutta, and some disciples, they came, they were offer respects. Immediately Bhakti Thakur replied, Dasosme, Dasosme, I am servant. This is a Vaishnava mentality. He thinks I am servant of all living beings because Krishna is in the heart of every living being. This mentality is what is the essence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching. Amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. So after this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing special mercy to Raghunath Das. His father sent lot of money. The father of Raghunath Das sent lot of money. बहुत पैसा भेजा. तो पैसा लेके क्या करते? प्रसाद बनाते और चैतन्य महाप्रभु को खिलाते. They would serve Lord Chaitanya for 1 day, 2 days, then he stopped inviting. Lord Chaitanya बोले अभी क्यों नहीं बुला रहे? क्या कारण है? Then Raghunath Das Goswami, he explained, विषय अन्न खाइला दुष्ट है मन, दुष्ट मन नहीं है कृष्ण रसमरण. If you take food from the person who is materially attached, then the mind becomes contaminated, and in the contaminated mind you cannot think of Krishna. मतलब जिसका हम पैसा लेते हैं उससे बहुत फर्क पड़ता है. विषय अन्न खाइला मलिन है मन, मलिन मन नहीं है कृष्ण रसमरण. When one eats food offered by materialistic man, mind becomes contaminated. So you should be very careful from where we are accepting food. Even if it is offered, it should be from a devotee. एक भक्त के द्वारा होना चाहिए. Otherwise the mind becomes contaminated. You become like what you eat. It's a consciousness. So now Raghunath Das Goswami is, where is he taking prasad? He is not standing there. Then where is he taking? He is not taking from his father. कहाँ पर प्रसाद कहाँ ले रहे हैं? अन्न क्षेत्र जहाँ पर free प्रसाद है. He is just taking prasad there. Lord Chaitanya was so happy. He had one Govardhan Shila. महाप्रभु के पास एक गोवर्धन शिला थी और एक गुंजमाला, और वो दोनों चीज रघुनाथ को दे दी. He gave that Govardhan Shila to Raghunath. Anybody knows where is that Shila now? Govardhan Shila that Lord Chaitanya gave to Raghunath is in Vrindavan, Radha Gokulanand temple. That Shila, which has got the thumbprint of Lord Chaitanya. Some of you have seen that Shila, small Shila, this size, with the finger, with the thumbprint of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Lord Chaitanya gave to Raghunath Das Goswami because he was so pleased with Raghunath Das Goswami's renunciation. And then one day Lord Chaitanya went secretly. What is Raghunath doing? Secretly gaye. Raghunath was taking the rice which is offered to Lord Jagannath. After 2 or 3 days it is given to the cows. And after, when the cows also do not accept, that rice was taken by Raghunath. He would wash that rice which was smelling very bad and put little salt and he would eat it. वो चावल जो गाय भी नहीं खा रहे, वो चावल को धोके नमक के साथ खा रहे हैं. So one day Lord Chaitanya came and said, Raghunath, तुम्ही नीति प्रसाद खाइबो, आमा ना दीबो, आप नया प्रसाद खा रहे, हमको नहीं दे रहे. He ate and he went to eat second time. But Sarup Damodar said, Lord, it is not good for you. आप मत लीजिए. And then Lord Chaitanya said, I have eaten different types of Jagannath prasad, khaja and malpua, everything, but I never tasted anything like this before. ये इतना अच्छा प्रसाद कभी भी नहीं मिला. अरे वो प्रसाद तो सड़ गया है, बदबू आ रही है. अब भगवान बोल रहे हैं बहुत अच्छा है. क्यों? उसमें भक्ति है, नम्रता है. Lord is saying it is very nice because of the humility and the renunciation of Raghunath Das Goswami. And then Lord Chaitanya gave this Govardhan Shila and he said, you offer 8 pieces of khaja and sweetmeats. And Raghunath was so happy. He said, Shila diya gosai samarpila govardhane, gunjamala diya dila radhika charane, Lord has given me Govardhan Shila. That means He has given me a place of residence near Govardhan Hill. And He has given me a garland of conch shells. He has offered me at the lotus feet of Radharani. Govardhan Shila diya matlab, मुझे गिरिराज के पास स्थान मिला. निज निकट स्थान देहि. सब लोग तरसते हैं, वो मुझे मिला है. और गुंजमाला. So in this way, Raghunath, he would, what was his daily schedule? 7:30 prahar namasmaran, 22 hours chanting Hare Krishna, and 2 hours for eating and sleeping. 22 घंटे जपा कीर्तन और 2 घंटा सोना खाना. हमारा उल्टा होता है, 2 घंटा जपा और 22 घंटे सोना खाना. You know, that was Raghunath. And he would offer obeisances to 1000 Vaishnavas every day. Every day 1000. And he would wear torn clothes, फटे हुए कपड़े. ऐसा नहीं कि मार्केट में जाके नया कपड़ा लेकर आते, नहीं, फटे हुए कपड़े पहनते. And then he would be always remembering Krishna. And then when Lord Chaitanya left Puri, he went back to the spiritual world. Raghunath could not tolerate. रघुनाथ सहन नहीं कर सके. फिर वो वृंदावन चले गए. और वृंदावन में उनका प्लान था आत्महत्या. He wanted to commit suicide, but for anything he would take permission. Even for suicide he would take permission. So he went to take permission from Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, and they said, no, we want to hear from you. Lord Chaitanya's pastime in Jagannath Puri. Please narrate to us. आप हमें कथा सुनाओ, महाप्रभु ने पुरी में क्या लीला की. और रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी would narrate 3 hours every day on the bank of Radha Kund pe. And Kaviraj Goswami took notes. That's how we got this Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Kaviraj Goswami has elaborated what Raghunath Das Goswami spoke. And Raghunath Das was staying near Radha Kund, and he would take buttermilk, just few drops of buttermilk once in 3 days. Suppose today is Sunday, next is Wednesday. Hare Krishna. If we do like this, we will die. हमको ऐसा नहीं करना है बाबा. हम दिन में 3 बार खाना, no problem. एकादशी में भी चलेगा. But Raghunath Das Goswami was so austere, and he would offer obeisances to everybody. He renovated Radha Kund. He did not have any money. पैसा नहीं था. One businessman came to Badrinath. बद्रीनाथ में पैसा देने गए. अब भगवान बद्रीनाथ बोले कि ये पैसा रघुनाथ के अकाउंट में डाल दो. बैठे बैठे फंड कलेक्शन हो गया. That was Raghunath's bhakti. And one day Raghunath was chanting near Radha Kund, and it was so hot. इतना गर्म था. Radharani came and she put her part of her sari to shade his devotee. And one day he was chanting and 2 tigers came. तो शेर आ गए. And Krishna came with a stick and chased away tiger. आप मत करना, आप किया तो स्टिक के साथ खा जाएगा वो. And then Sanatan Goswami said, Raghunath, what are you doing? You are taking service from Radha and Krishna. You should build a kuti for yourself. आप भगवान से सेवा नहीं लेना चाहिए. राधा रानी आ रही है, छाया दे रही है, कृष्ण लाठी लेके आ रहे हैं. तो फिर रघुनाथ ने फिर भजन कुटिया बनाई. Then he wrote various books, about Vaishnav Manashiksha, and he was constantly absorbed. Krishna Kirtan Gana Ratana Paro Premamrita Bhunidhi. He was constantly absorbed in hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord. And by his example, he taught us what is Vaishnava. So we can take inspiration. Raghunath Das Goswami stayed 16 years in Puri with Lord Chaitanya. Such a great fortune. तो चैतन्य महाप्रभु कितनी कृपा दिखाए रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी को, और फिर वही कृपा उन्होंने वृंदावन में भक्तों को दिलाई. और एक बार तो वो कुंड बना रहे थे, राधा कुंड, और एक जगह पे हैमरिंग किया, पत्थर से खून आने लगा. इट वॉज ब्लीडिंग. No, don't, stop. And then Lord Krishna appeared and dreamed and told Raghunath that Govardhan, I am not different from Govardhan, and this place is my tongue, Jiva. You should worship. So Raghunath Das Goswami took that Shila and he worshipped. It's called Jiva Mandir. In Radha Kund, you see that. So there are so many pastimes like this about Raghunath Das Goswami, which show us that how a Vaishnava should behave. But the most important is what Lord Chaitanya told Raghunath. This important verse, Trinadapi Suni Chena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada. We should always think about this verse 100 times a day. I have to become more humble than a blade of grass. मुझे घास के तिनके से भी छोटा बनना है. More tolerant than a tree. Give all respects to others and expect none in return. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur would say, this is our Siddha Pranali mantra. Some people go to Babaji's for Siddha Pranali mantra. Our Siddha Pranali mantra is Trinadapi Sunichin. Become humbler than a blade of grass. And then we can chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. I will end today's discussion with the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Although I am a fallen soul, I am the lowest of men, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered me from the blazing fire of material opulence by his mercy, and he handed me over to Swarup Damodar Goswami, and he gave me garland of Govardhan Shila. मैं तो भौतिक दुनिया में था, भगवान ने मुझे अपने चरणों में रखा. And the final blessing is, एई तो कहिलु रघुनाथे र मिलन, इहा जय सुने पाए चैतन्य चरण. Anybody who hears this story, meeting of Lord Chaitanya and Raghunath, he will attain the lotus feet of Lord Gauranga. Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai, Gaur Premanande. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. But question answers they could not ask.
Yeah.
Little time, except tomorrow you can give.
I just started late also.
Okay. So we will thank to Prabhuji by chanting 3 times Hari Bol. Loudly. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! So it's nice. You are enjoying. So our 3rd day Sravana Utsav is finished. Tomorrow is the last day, Sravana Utsav. We expect you all on time. And tomorrow also Krishnananda Prabhu will come. Tomorrow same time. Morning His Holiness Aldar Swami. And 12 o'clock to 1:30, Bhakti Vigna Vinashak Narasimha Swami Maharaj will give. Lord Chaitanya and his associates. And evening 5 o'clock, 5:30 onwards, Hari Shauri Prabhu will come. Okay? So, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Prasadam is waiting. You can take prasadam.
Hare Krishna. I hope I have satisfied.